You're listening to the Bear in Mind podcast, episode number 110.
A podcast uncovering identity, color, and love, where driving yourself crazy is totally sane and curable. Now your host, T. Bias.
I love it when the timing of an episode comes together so beautifully, because today we're talking about love, the difficult person. And you're probably like, what? No. So what I want you to do in this moment for this next 10 episodes is think of the current difficult person, not like your mother or something that's maybe ongoing, but the last thing where you're like, a bit like annoyed with somebody. It could be your neighbor, could be your boss, your best friend, sibling, whatever. And it came together. I have actually two people. I'll use them as an example where it came up where it was kind of difficult. And one is my landlord. So you've got the last thing that they did, okay? I want you to describe the situation in a few sentences, and I'm going to describe my situation. Okay, so there was a problem with the upstairs apartment, and it turns out it has dry rot, which I'm not sure exactly what dry rot, but basically moisture got in, and then I think a whole bunch of fungus was growing and deteriorating the underlying layer there in her floor, so then therefore our ceiling. I knew there was a problem because my neighbor told me about this problem, and I didn't know when they were going to be doing the work. So yesterday they were pounding, and I had calls with clients, and then all of a sudden the Wi-Fi goes out. So there's noise. I have no Wi-Fi, and I quickly resolved it. I did it, with my mobile data, did the calls, great. Went to a room where the noise was minimal, and the noise is still going on, and so I hope you can't really hear that in the background. And so then I told my landlord, look, whatever they're doing, they somehow cut the cable for our internet. And it's the next day, it's today when I'm recording this podcast, and they're working on it, and the internet is still not available. And so I'm annoyed. This morning I had calls, so I again did it on my mobile data, and again there was noise. And I'm annoyed because I think that my landlord should have informed me about this, and then I would have adjusted things. Knowing that there was going to be noise, I probably wouldn't have allowed my clients to schedule meetings at this time. I would have blocked it out, or I would have let them know, hey, there's probably going to be some noise or anything like that. So you got that situation in your head, you described it. And what I want you to do is to retell that story with only the facts. That, I want you to think of it when you retell a story with the facts, that it's almost like you're in a court of law and you're presenting only the facts. You can't give opinions. You're not even an expert opinion. And you need to draw out the timeline only with the facts. So you're presenting in a court of law. And with that story that I told you, I did this exercise too, by the way, and I have it down here on the piece of paper. So my facts are pounding on the ceiling, no Wi-Fi. That's it. Those are the facts. There was actually pounding. I mean, they had a hammer. I did see that. It could be noise on the ceiling, no Wi-Fi. And those would only be the facts. And I took up about 2 minutes telling you that story about how they went in there, cut the Wi-Fi. And I don't know if that's what they did and if they cut it or whatever, but that's the story I'm telling myself. And then it was, in fact, later, he said, yes, there seems to be a cable that they disrupted while they were doing that when I spoke to my landlord. So the only fact then is I don't still know what they did with the Wi-Fi cable. My landlord said that they had disrupted the wire. And that the only fact is my landlord said, not even that it's even true. Only his words. He said these words to me would be a fact. Those are the only facts. Pounding on the ceiling, no Wi-Fi. And landlord said they disrupted a wire. And so for your situation, maybe you're thinking about a text that somebody sent you. Maybe they said something to you in a meeting, and really look at the words that they said to you. Because if it's in text form, great, because you have it exactly. And if they said words to you, you need to add in, they said these words. Because their words aren't actually true. It's the fact that they said those words. They spoke those words. And notice that all of a sudden, your story goes from like 3 minutes long to about 10 seconds. Because all of the rest of it that we're saying is all of this story. And that whole story is lending itself to a lot of annoyance, a lot of irritation with that difficult person. Because what do you think when I tell you the story? Pounding on the ceiling, no Wi-Fi. You might be like, okay, so what? Or you might be like, okay, kind of sucks, but it's okay. No internet. I have mobile data. What's the big deal? And the story that I'm telling myself is like, well, he should have done this. And usually when we're annoyed by someone, this difficult person, is because of something that they should have done. They shouldn't have said those words. They should have texted earlier. They should have told me this. They should be more considerate. That one was for my husband. And you have this script and this manual. And so to get to this place of loving the difficult person is to do exactly what you did. Separate out the facts and the story that you're telling yourself. And the facts are really, it's often only going to take you 3 seconds to say it, and it's often just going to be a phrase, no Wi-Fi. And then the rest of it is usually our manual for that person. And usually along those lines, we have a bunch of judgment about that person. Like they're inconsiderate. That's what I had. I thought that about my landlord. I thought he was being inconsiderate. And so when we're doing this, we're so busy in their manual, so busy on judging who they are, that we're almost so focused on them. And if you have a second, I want you to write all that out. Write out what they should have done, how they should have behaved, and write out all your judgments of them. And then let it be. And know that that's your manual. Know that that's your script for them. And it's okay. What I want you to do next is I want you to write out your manual. I want you to shift your focus from how they're behaving and write out your manual. So if you've already handled the situation that came up, let's say there was a text that annoyed you and you've already responded. I want you to then write out your manual. That is your manual. I respond in this situation. And I want you to focus on your script for yourself. And if you haven't handled the situation that's annoying you or anything like that, I want you to write out how you want to handle it. What would be your manual for handling this situation with this person that annoys you? What is it that you want to do? How do you want to show up? And get really clear and very detailed about how you want to show up. And that's why I had you pick like something that was happening now and something very specific, like even a small little situation with your neighbor. And so it won't take a lot of time, but you'll be able to see this even in your bigger relationships. If you can get to the details of how you want to handle something and what is your manual for it. And then, so if you've handled the situation already, or if you're about to handle the situation, what I want you to do is you have handled the situation, and I want you to look at how you handled that situation, and I want you to tell me 3 things that were amazing about how you handled it. And if you haven't handled it, what are the 3 amazing things that you want to do? How do you want to show up? What are the 3 things that, hey, I handled this great, that at the end of it, you'd be like, I handled this amazing. So if I did this for my situation with the pounding and no Wi-Fi, one is in the middle of a call when something happened, I was able to quickly switch to and get it focused. My computer went out and then I switched to my phone, and then it did not disrupt the time that I could give to my client. So that was one thing that was amazing of that situation that was annoying me. The pounding on the floor, I heard it in the morning right before my call, and I said, okay, I'm going to shift where I was going to work at home. I was going to shift it to the room where there was the least amount of noise so that they wouldn't hear all this background noise. So I did that. I was proactive in that situation. The third thing that I think I did amazing was when I spoke to my landlord. Yes, I was annoyed. I did not go up to him and say, hey, what happened to the Wi-Fi? I asked him a question. I said, hey, the Wi-Fi is not working. Is this related to the work that you're doing upstairs? Could you check that out? That's what I said to him. Could you check it out? I didn't go in there with an assumption. I didn't. And then he just said, okay, I'm going to go ask them and see what happened. And he is currently, right before I record this episode, following up with it. So I'm going to wrap it up and go through it. So you have a situation, look at that specific situation where you feel annoyed with that difficult person. Write out the story that you're saying and then separate out the facts. And you'll definitely know it's the facts if everybody can agree on it, and it's probably only going to be 2 phrases. It'll only take 3 seconds to say it. So that's how you know you've got the facts. And then write out your manual, and then write out your manual for how you would like to respond in this situation. And look at the things that you have done amazing in that situation, or that you want to handle it so it will be amazing in that situation. Because when you do that, you will be able to be proud of yourself for how you're handling a situation. You will have that love for yourself. And it'll be so much easier when you can see, oh, look, I'm handling this. Oh, look, this is my manual for how I want to show up. If the person here wasn't considerate, but I want to show up considerate, I get to show up this way. And when you have that love and you can see that you are showing up how you want to in your life, even though somebody else, that's not how you would prefer them to, it's so much easier to love them. When you're loving yourself and how you're showing up, then that person, that annoyance lessens a lot more. That's all I have for you this week. I'll check back with you next.
Thanks for listening. Listen for a new episode next Tuesday by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Bye for now.